Hi, everybody. A warm welcome to all the learners at in 28 minutes. If you're able to hear me, do post a few comments, maybe in the chat. If you can hear me clearly, please do post a few comments in the chat so that I can. Yeah, it's great to be here. It's been a long time actually since I went live. Um, yeah, okay, let's wait for a few comments to roll in. If everybody is able to see this, I don't see anything in the chat right now. Oops. Hi, Madhusudan. I hope you are able to hear me clearly. Hi, Sai Kiran. Good evening. So, Sai Kiran, Madhusudan, are you able to hear me properly? Okay. Hi, Balakrishna. How are you? Okay, awesome. That's great to hear. I see. Yeah, I see a lot of people coming into the chat. That's great to see. Uh, uh, cool. Let's give a few minutes for everybody to join in. I was actually like one of the things which we are doing is actually this is kind of two events at the same time in the sense that we are going live on YouTube, and this is also part of a meetup event. Um, I'm kind of thinking if it would be a good idea if I can do this live session every month or so. Uh, I've tried to do this monthly earlier as well, but somehow I was not able to fit it into the schedule. Maybe this time we'll be successful. Let's see how it goes. So what I'm also doing is actually in Meetup, I have organized an event for this in 28 minutes learners meets. It's September 2022. So there's a Meetup group that I have created. If you are interested in joining the Meetup group, that would be great. If you're already coming from the Meetup group, that's great as well. So I see a lot of people coming in into the chat. That's great to see. Um, wow, a lot of people are joining in. That's great. Hi to everybody joining in. I don't know if I'm Pawan Kalyan, Sai Kiran. I see Adedayo Abdullahi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't get it right. Gaurav, Arupam, Vaibhav, Samad, Dupala Balakrishna, Pawan Kalyan, Kasturba, Vivekanand. Awesome. Great to see all of you in here. Like the, I'll probably what I'll do is I'll take the questions at the end. Like I'll probably uh, take some of these questions which you are posting in the chat. I'll take them at the end of the session. For now, what I would probably be doing is to get to the agenda of this particular session, right? So what we wanted to talk about is to plan. How do you plan your cloud and DevOps learning? So that's kind of the agenda that I had in mind for this specific session. So what we'll do is we'll get started with first uh, the big questions, right? So if DevOps is not something which is unrelated to software development. I mean, actually, probably I should say DevOps is not something which is different from cloud. Right? If I look at cloud and DevOps, actually, a lot of enterprises actually use a combination of both cloud and DevOps as well. Okay, let me just check the sound. Mhm. Okay, hopefully this might be better sound. I changed a few settings. I saw a comment saying there's a little bit of echo. Hopefully this now there will be less echo. Hopefully, cool. So let's get back to cloud and DevOps. So like one of the things that I feel is cloud and DevOps kind of go together. And as far as I'm concerned, I think DevOps is best learned in the cloud, right? So a lot of enterprises actually do DevOps without the cloud. I mean, even in their data center, they do DevOps. But I feel as a learner, if you are beginning your career, I think learning DevOps in the cloud is one of the best strategies. Now, before you get started with DevOps, you need to learn the cloud. So, what would be the plan towards learning cloud? So, typically, there are two kinds of learners, right? One is freshers. I mean, suppose you don't have any experience. The other category of learners are basically people who have experience, right, with their specific role. And there are a wide variety of learners as well, right? So if you might be doing variety of roles in your day-to-day IT life. You might be a programmer, you might be a tester, you might be a business analyst. So it is like the thing is, cloud is something which touches everybody, right? It's expected that whether you are a developer, a tester, an ops guy, um, or even some of the business teams or a project manager, everybody is expected to understand the cloud. Now, let's say you are a fresher and you would want to learn the cloud. I think the first thing that you need to look at is trying to be good at what, like, if you're a fresher, I think the first thing that you need to focus on is to be good at what you are doing. Right? So if you are going for a programming role, then the first thing that you need to focus on is to be good at programming. Cloud, as far as I'm concerned, is an add-on skill. It's not something which is the starting point. I see a lot of freshers aim for architect certification, right? You might be able to clear the certification, but it does not add any value to your career. The best thing to do as a fresher, if you are aiming for programming roles, is to really good get is to become really good at programming. That's the first thing that you would want to focus on. Once you're good at programming, then you can think about cloud or DevOps or things like that. So the core skill is very important. If you're a tester, then probably being good at testing or learning automation testing with Selenium or things like that. That is a great value add before you go into the cloud and DevOps. So that's number one thing that everybody like who's getting into the industry, like if you are aiming for a specific role, become good at that specific role and only then think about cloud. Now, let's say, I assume, let's say you are a programmer and you're good at programming, you know how to build applications. That's when you would probably think about going towards cloud and DevOps, right? So if you're a fresher, you have zero knowledge, if you have zero knowledge about the cloud, then I think one of the best options to start learning is to try one of the beginner certifications in the cloud. If you look at the most popular cloud platforms out there, it's AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud as well. So these are the three most popular ones. Like irrespective of which one you choose, if you are in the top 1 percentile, there are tons of jobs out there. So irrespective of whether it's AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, if you are really good at it, there are tons of jobs. So the important question is not which cloud you are choosing, but how good you are at it. So pick up one of these clouds, and I would get I would probably have you start with the fundamental certification of that specific cloud. If you have zero knowledge, right? So this is assuming that you don't have any experience with the cloud. I would recommend you to get started with the fundamental ones. For example, Azure has AZ900, it's Azure Fundamentals. AWS has AWS Cloud Practitioner. That's AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner is a great starting point for AWS. And Google Cloud has Google Cloud Digital Leader. These are not tough certifications. If you are really technically good, or even if you are not technically inclined, let's say you are into a testing role or you are a project manager or things like that, that's what your goal is. Even like people without a technical background can clear this certification, I would say, in 2 to 3 weeks. So these are not tough certifications, but the great thing is these give a first step into the cloud. I'm a great believer that whenever I'm learning something, I would want to set milestones. So for me, the beginner cloud certification is a great milestone. Like that's the best thing to start your journey with. And once you are familiar with like once you have done the beginner cloud certification, then it would be the role specific certification, right? So if you are a techie and you want to maybe become a data engineer, or you want to become a machine learning specialist, or you want to become a developer, or you want to become like any like network engineer, security engineer. So you have role specific certifications after that. So you start with the beginner certification, and then jump into the role specific certification for that specific cloud. Again, one very important thing to remember is to make sure that you choose courses which not only help you clear the certification, but also give you hands-on knowledge. Every time, that's the most important part, right? So you'd want to have the right experience with the cloud. You want to be able to solve problems on the cloud. It's not about a certification. The certification is good to have in your resume, but the real things that you need to focus on is the practical skills. So if you are actually developing applications, then I would recommend you to actually practice deploying your applications to the cloud as well. So whatever application that you build, maybe it's a full stack application. So try and deploy it to the cloud, and that gives you a lot of learning in addition to the certification. Certification is just the starting point. You get a high level overview of almost all the services out there, but the most important part is to go hands on with it. Go hands on, like take whatever you're building and put it into the cloud. Take a few sample projects, put it into the cloud. So that's the important part as well. So it should always be a mix of hands on plus your certification. That's what would give you the best opportunities out there. So if you're a fresher, start with the freshers. I mean, start with the beginner certification and then go into one of the role specific certifications. However, on the other hand, there are a lot of experienced folks. Maybe you have 5 years or 10 years of experience. Maybe you're building microservices, or maybe you're building a lot of web applications or full stack applications. In that kind of scenario, I think the best recommendation from me would be to get started with deploying your applications to the cloud. So before you do any certification, I would actually recommend you, if you have a lot of experience, to get started with actually playing around with the cloud. I think that will give you a lot of knowledge and also a lot of exposure to the cloud. And probably after that, I would, if you are experienced, probably you can give the beginner level certifications a skip. You don't need to worry about Azure Fundamentals or Google Cloud Digital Leader, or you don't need to worry about Cloud Practitioner. I would say you can directly jump into one of the role specific certifications. So if you are an architect, for example, there are architect certifications in Google Cloud, Azure, and AWS as well. So you can pursue one of those architect certifications, or developer certifications are there. You also have, in each of the clouds, you have security engineer, network engineer. So depending on the specific role you have experience with, that's the certification I think you want to go with. So yeah, that's kind of the high level path when it comes to cloud. I have a feeling DevOps is something you can actually I have a feeling like when you start with like the cloud, DevOps becomes much more easier, because doing DevOps in the cloud is very easy, right? So if you want to do, for example, things like continuous integration in the cloud, there are specific services for that, and setting up things for continuous integration in the cloud is much more easier. For example, you want to do infrastructure as code with Terraform, right? Learning that is much more easier if you are actually if you know one of the cloud platforms really well. So if you have good knowledge of AWS, then probably you can start trying to use Terraform and create resources in AWS. So the knowledge of cloud is a great thing if you want to learn DevOps as well. So whether you want to do CI/CD, whether you want to set up infrastructure as code, or even things like observability, logs, metrics, traces, all these kind of things become very easy in the cloud. So I would like, even if you are trying to get into a DevOps kind of a role, probably cloud is the best place to get started. Yeah, I think that's kind of the overview, like for how you can start with your cloud and DevOps journeys. One of the most important things about DevOps is that I mean, there is no single definition of what DevOps is, and also there is no single definition of what a DevOps role is. A lot of people actually come to me and ask, okay, how can I become a DevOps engineer? The thing is, as a beginner, if you're starting with DevOps, then probably it's better to actually pick up one area. I don't think it's good to actually try and learn everything which is out there, right? I would not recommend learning Docker, Kubernetes, Terraform, like CI/CD, like observability. You don't want to learn all of them at once. The the important thing there is to be able to focus on a specific skill, right? So maybe starting with containers and container orchestration, Docker and Kubernetes, that might be a great starting point, right? For a few months, try and actually start with that. You don't want to like go too broad as well. So, and also the definitions with respect to DevOps are like if you just go to LinkedIn and search for roles which say DevOps, you would see that if you take 10 roles where the titles are DevOps engineers, you would see that each of these 10 roles have 10 different descriptions, right? So there is no one specific thing. So I would rather actually settle on a specific thing. So maybe you can go on LinkedIn, try and find a DevOps role description. That is what your target is. And then you can decide how to go about learning it. Right? So the important thing when it comes to DevOps, as far as I'm concerned, is not to be a jack of all trades. It's very, very important to have a broad knowledge. Yes, you'd want to eventually understand what is containers, container orchestration, infrastructure as code, observability. So you want to understand all these, but you don't need to be an expert at all these, right? As somebody who's probably doing a programming or a developer role, probably if you're good at programming, and probably if you have deep knowledge of containers and container orchestration, or maybe your main job is to actually do infrastructure as code, then it might be good to be really, really an expert in Terraform and have a broad knowledge on rest of the things. So it's very, very important to, like, when it comes to DevOps, to have a like focus area. It cannot be that I would want to learn everything in DevOps. That's I don't think I don't think is possible, especially because there are so many DevOps tools out there, and like there are new tools coming in every day. So it's impossible to be an expert at all of them. It's very, very important to be uh, specific. Like you need to work out a niche based on your experience, which is like the right one for you, and then you can probably focus on that area. I would not recommend to try and be an expert at everything related to DevOps. So yeah, that's kind of the broad overview of cloud and DevOps. Like that's how I would think about learning. And also, like when it comes to learning, I think learning is something which is very individual specific. A lot of learners ask me, okay, should I do a video? I mean, should I watch a YouTube video? Should I do a Udemy course, or should I go to Coursera, or should I follow a book? Right? I have a feeling actually learning is something which is individual specific, right? So what I would recommend you to do is to, like, for example, if you want to do a AWS Cloud Practitioner certification, I would say try out different resources which are out there for at least 30 to 45 minutes. So probably let's say you pick up a Udemy course and do it for 30 to 45 minutes. Probably you'd go to YouTube and see a video for 30 to 45 minutes, or go to Coursera. Like there might be AWS certification courses there. So try and pick up a thing there. See, like try different things before you settle on one thing. Like the one of the challenges with respect to learning is whatever is good for me, right? I like reading books. Like if I'm preparing for a certification, probably I would have a couple of books with me, and that's what I would read from. But that's not something which might not, I mean, that might not work for everybody, right? So there might be somebody who might be actually good at focusing on a single course and completing it and getting the certification, right? So yeah, it's very, very individual specific. So I would actually ask you to, like, I would recommend you to try out what works for you. The great thing is there are so many resources out there, right? So we have in 28 minutes courses. There are a lot of great courses from other instructors as well, and there are wide variety of approaches to learning. So the important thing for you to do is to figure out what works for you. Once you are able to figure out what works for you, you can take that approach and be really, really efficient with that. So learning for me is very, very individualistic. So I would recommend you to actually work out for yourself what's the best way for you to learn. And another important thing is you don't need to learn everything at the same level, right? For example, if you are a Python programmer, you need to be really, really excellent, or you should be in the top 1 percentile with respect to Python, right? But you, like, let's say you are deploying your applications to AWS, and probably the only service in AWS that you're making use of is Elastic Beanstalk, right? In that kind of scenario, it does not help you a lot if you are an expert on every other service in AWS. So it's very, very important to be having deep knowledge in specific areas which you are making use of right now, or which you are aiming to make use of in the next 1 year. So in those areas, I would recommend you to go really, really deep. But in areas which you are sure you're not going to make use of in the next 1 year, I would rather try and get a high level picture, probably not go too hands on. I probably kind of learn them at a 10,000 feet overview, or maybe 5,000 or 1,000 feet, but I would not definitely get onto the ground and start working with them. So it's a very, very important distinction. Like a lot of learners ask me, okay, I want to learn too many, like 10 different things, right? That's probably will not work. It's actually very, very important to be picky about what you get deep into. So you need to do an assessment as to what you want to learn, what you're using right now, what you're planning to use in the next year, and focus on getting deep into them. For the rest of the things, if something is happening in the industry which is interesting, try and get a high level big picture of it. Like try and understand it at a high level. Try and see what problem it solves. Try and see how it fits into your current job. But you don't really need to go too deep into it, uh, unless you are planning to, maybe like you'd want that to be your next role, right? In that kind of scenario, you want to go deep. But other than that, I don't see a need for being an expert at a deep level at everything. And that's also not that will not also be a really good use of your time as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of the summary of what I wanted to talk about in this specific session. Let's probably pick up some of the questions from the chat. If you have more questions, do keep posting them on the chat and I'll pick them up. So let's get started. Habib Sherry, thanks a lot. Really, really happy. I mean, the fact that I get a chance to um, make a difference to you and uh, thousands of other learners is something which YouTube and Udemy enable me to do. So I'm really, really thankful to those two platforms, which uh, help me to, which help me to teach all these things to you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Let's pick up a few more questions. I see a request from Pawan Kalyan asking me to teach in Telugu on Udemy. Pawan Kalyan, I'm not sure if there is an audience. If there is a significant audience in there, if I see a course in Telugu succeed in Udemy, probably that might be a good thing for me to pick up. But for now, I don't see myself creating a Telugu course on Udemy. But like maybe if you are interested in learning Java in Telugu, just do a search for Java in Telugu in 28 minutes. That might be a fun thing to do. I've created a lot of Telugu videos at the start in the specific channel, in the in 28 minutes channel. Earlier it was called Ritu's Tutorials, and I had a lot of Telugu content in there. Maybe you'd want to check that out. Good evening, Gaurav. Let's go further down. Let's see. Hi, Gaurav. Good evening. Anupam, hi. And a lot of other guys in there saying, thank you for amazing resources. Thank you, Abdullahi. Thank you. Yeah, great to see all the love. Yeah, it's creating content is a lonely job. Like I have a small team, but for the most part, I don't get to meet all the learners, and I'm really, really happy to see anything like that. The feedback which you are giving in, right? So it makes a huge difference to us. Like uh, seeing good reviews, seeing that our content is helping you get better in your career, taking the next steps. Yeah, that's what motivates us. Thanks a lot. Great to hear all that um, positive feedback. Thank you. Let's scroll down. I'm Java developer. How much salary provided to fresher? I'm like the thing is, uh, it depends on which company you are going to. There is no one salary range as such. I would uh, there are like start. I mean, depends on the kind of company you're going to, depending on your expertise. There are a wide range of salaries. I think I would not even think about salary when I'm starting off. The most important, I mean, salary is important. It's not that salary is not important. Salary is very, very important because that's what helps us lead our life. But I would not really focus on that a lot. The most important thing I would recommend to focus on, if you are interested in programming and if you think Java is the way to go, then try and become an expert at Java, right? So the best way to earn a lot is to be an expert at whatever you're doing, right? If you're in the top 1% of even mainframes, right? Today, a lot of people think mainframes is outdated. But if you are in the top 1% of people who are working on mainframes, then you'll earn a lot of money, right? So it's about being an expert at whatever you are learning, whether it's cloud, whether it's DevOps, or whether it's a specific programming language. If you are an expert at that, the kind of pay you would get would be completely different compared to, like, let's say, like I always think about the top 1%, top 10%, uh, and the rest of the people, right? So if you are in the top 10%, or if you are in the top 1%, definitely you'll be able to earn a lot of money. You'll have uh, the job will be interesting as well. So I would recommend you to focus on actually becoming really, really good at whatever you would want to become. And then you would see that salary would follow you. Balakrishna is asking me if I stay in Hyderabad. Yes, I do stay in Hyderabad, Balakrishna. It's my home city. I was born here. I traveled a little bit in between. So I was in US, I was in Netherlands for a little while, but I returned back to Hyderabad, and for the last 5 6 years I've been in Hyderabad. So from the time I created my first Udemy course, I'm in Hyderabad. Yeah, a lot of people saying hi: Balakrishna, Mithun, Ajinkya Gadkari, Akash Debnath. Um, Thanks a lot, Mithun. Uh, Great to hear that. Um, Ajinkya Gadkari is asking how to switch to DevOps from a SDET role. I don't think it's a switch, Ajinkya. I don't think it's like you go from a programming role, and DevOps role is completely different to that. The thing which you need to think about is, okay, when you say DevOps, what do you mean, right? What are the final things you'd want to be able to do? Maybe you'd want to be able to create containers or create a container image. Maybe you'd want to be able to use container orchestration tool like Kubernetes, right? So you need to identify the specific DevOps skills that you want to add on to your specific role that you're doing. For example, if I'm building, let's say, Java full stack applications, maybe I would want to learn to containerize them. Maybe I would want to learn to deploy them to Kubernetes. So that's probably the starting point, right? So DevOps is not completely different from what you are doing. It's just an add-on. It's just a layer on top of what you are doing right now. So it's not a switch. I would actually recommend you to think about, based on whatever you are doing, if you actually probably give a little bit more background as to what you are doing, probably that would help me to give you a more concrete answer. But in general, uh, it's not a switch. It's just an add-on. It's about identifying which elements of DevOps that you'd want to learn, which makes sense on top of your profile, and then focusing on them. So yeah, that's probably the best way to think about it, I guess. So let's scroll down. Okay. So Sai Teja, hi Sai Teja, he's asking, uh, how much of DevOps and cloud is needed for Java backend developer, full stack developer, a roadmap kind of thing, please. So I think the first thing you need to decide is which cloud, right? If you're a backend developer in Java right now, or a full stack developer in Java, I would recommend you to think about which cloud. So talk to your friends, talk to a few people, and settle down on a specific cloud, AWS or Azure or Google Cloud. It does not matter which one. Like, as long as you are becoming an expert at it, it does not really matter which cloud you pick. So pick up one of these cloud platforms, and then I think the if you are using that specific cloud in your project, that's great, right? So then that's hands-on learning. Then probably you can skip the beginner level certifications and directly jump into the role specific certifications. But if you're not making use of the cloud in your specific role right now, I would recommend you to start with a beginner certification, depending on the specific cloud you are in, AZ 900 or AWS Cloud Practitioner or Google Cloud Digital Leader. Probably start with that and then jump into a role specific certification, because you're saying you are a developer. Probably you can try the AWS developer certification or the Google Cloud developer certification or Azure developer certification, depending on your specific cloud. I think that would be a good starting point. And also try and deploy whatever you're building into the specific cloud. So if you're building Java backend, then try and understand how to deploy it to the cloud, and also try and understand how to create database. What are the different database options which are there, and also try and play around with them with your specific applications. If you're playing with MongoDB or if you're playing with Oracle, right? So you can actually create similar databases in the cloud and see if you're able to work things out. So I think that's kind of the roadmap I would think of. Like, it should be a combination of certifications plus getting the hands-on skills to build on whatever you have. Like the applications which you're building right now, how do you deploy them to the cloud? So, yep, I think that's the way. Madhusudan, hi Madhusudan, DevOps tools for beginners, particularly for developers. Again, Madhusudan, it's like a wide range. The most important, if I have to be picky, and if I would say generically, like in general, if you are developing anything, what would be the DevOps tools I would recommend? I would definitely say Docker and Kubernetes, because I see a lot of applications are getting containerized, right? So today probably like maybe like I can do a small poll out there. If you're using containers in your day-to-day job, like right now, put yes in the comments, and if you're not, put no in the comment. I'll see how many people are using containers. So you can probably put container yes and container no in the comment, and I'll see how many of you are actually using containers. But my guess and my analysis is that a lot of people are actually using containers today. So I would say start with Docker. If you're a good programmer, start with Docker, and then probably think about container orchestration. So those should be the default uh, DevOps things that you would want to learn. Again, DevOps is like, there's no definition, there are no tools as such. So it's a tricky thing, but yeah, that's kind of the way I would go. So let's probably pick up a few more. Frank is saying, one of my favorite teachers in the Java community. Again, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the love, Frank. Really, really appreciate it. Keep the good and keep the feedback coming in. I'm sure there are a lot of places where we can improve on as well. Keep that feedback coming in as well. Thanks a lot. So Matsun is asking, many of my students are willing to start their career in cloud. Should I recommend? So if like they're aiming for a programming roles, then probably I think they should be good at programming before they would go to cloud, right? Or if you're aiming for a testing role or a business analysis role, so your core skills are important, and then the cloud. The only exception for this, I would think, is if you're trying for ops roles, right? If you're looking at ops roles, probably I think starting in the cloud might be a good idea. So it depends on the roles you are aiming for. So except for ops roles, I think for the rest of the things, it's very important to focus on the basics, get your basics right, and then probably jump into that specific cloud. I mean, and then cloud is a great add-on skill. Rajesh is asking, I have 1 year of experience as Java dev, but I'm not good at thinking of logic. Is there any role in the industry that doesn't have much logical coding? Rajesh, I think uh, the first suggestion I would give you would be to try and build a logical thinking, right? So it's very, very important when it comes to any technical role. Um, so I would actually recommend you to try solving a few coding challenges, right? So probably one of the best things I can suggest is to form a habit of solving one small programming challenge every day. Maybe like take a half an hour challenge and probably solve it, make it a habit of solving those kind of problems every day. And if, let's say, after trying to solve 10 or 15, if you don't see any improvement in how you are doing, then probably you can think about probably getting into an ops kind of a role. But even ops, I mean, programming logic will not be there, but even if you want to go into ops, you need to do some kind of scripting, some kind of there's always a little bit of programming element everywhere. Like so, yeah, it's difficult to avoid uh, logical thinking, but yeah, give it a try. Give it a try. Try and practice it a little bit. Try and see what you can do about it, and yeah, give it a try. And I'm sure you'll like it. Like I think it's just lack of focused practice. That's what stops you. But if you're able to focus for half an hour every day and try it for 30 days, I'm sure you'll be able to pick up an interest in that. So give it a try. So there are a few suggestions coming in from Tester Learn. Rajesh, maybe you'd want to look at them as well. Hi, Arith, how are you doing? Arith is asking if we can expect a GitOps and Argo CD course. Arith, actually, I have a big pipeline. I cannot promise it at right now, but it's in the pipeline. So I would want to actually, I'm thinking about a GitHub Actions, GitOps, and like to look at uh, like a big picture around it, not something which is focused just on Argo CD, but go a little higher and probably focus on a lot of other elements. Like so, GitOps is one of them, right? So I have a plan, but I don't know when I would get to it. Um, okay, I would now choose. I think we are already 36 minutes into this, so let's do this for another 50, like another 10 minutes. So I'll pick up a few more interesting questions. So how to choose right backend, like go with Node.js or Spring. Um, there is no right backend, right? I mean, when it comes to technology, you'd see people use Spring, Java, Spring Boot. You'd see people build Node.js. You'd see people go with Kotlin, Go. I don't think there is a generic thing which I can say that this is good for everybody, right? There are a lot of things you would need to analyze before you pick up the technology that you would want to use for a specific project, right? So the number one question typically is, do we have the skills, right? Do we have a team which can build a really good application on that specific technology? Typically that's the number one thing, and only after that, let's say the first decision would be based mostly not on actually which is good, but what kind of skills do we have in the team. So yeah, I think it's difficult uh, when it comes to a project, but when it comes to a learner, I think it depends on what your interest area is, right? If you're a front-end developer, for example, and you are good at JavaScript, then it makes sense to go ahead and build backends with Node.js. If you are good at Java, then probably you would go ahead and learn how to build a backend with Spring Boot. So yeah, probably not a complete answer, but I guess that's as specific as I can get. Yeah, Balakrishna is asked. Hi, Balakrishna. He's asking which one would you suggest between DevOps and data science? I would definitely suggest picking up DevOps. This is assuming that you have a background in programming. So if you have a background in programming, building web applications or specific mobile applications or things like that, I feel DevOps is just the next step. It it gives a lot of value to all the experience that you have. However, things like data science, it's almost like starting from zero. Like data science, the skills that you need for data science, probably like among the skills that you have right now, if you're going for DevOps, probably you'd be making use of more of your skills than if you're going for data science. So my first preference would be DevOps for sure. Let's see if there are any. So I'm following your videos on Udemy Spring Framework. Hi, Srikant. How to remember all the annotations. You don't need to remember. Like that's one of the misconceptions when it comes to learning something, right? The thing is today we have so many ways to find out things that the most important thing to know is to how to solve a problem. If I need to know how to build a REST API, right? What are the uh, concepts which are involved? If I don't know the specific annotation at REST controller, I can easily find that out. right? So today, the challenge is not remembering things. The challenge is actually having a high-level overview of how to do things. Once you know a high-level overview of how to do things, you can easily work out how to do them. And the second point I would say is there are specific areas where you'd want to remember everything, right? So if I'm using, for example, Java in my day-to-day life, I don't remember every API out there. And the best way to get there, the best way to get to that state is by practicing, is by building a lot of applications. By trying to just remember things, you would not be able to remember it. But if you keep building applications, if you keep practicing, you'd see that your skills would improve and you'd remember things like that. For example, I'll probably go like the AWS, uh, like early, like when I started my cloud journey, it was very, very, very confusing for me, remembering AWS services, Azure services, Google Cloud services. It was very, very, very tough, right? But what I tried to do was to play with them every day. Like I tried to deploy applications to them. I tried to practice them every day. I tried to get certified in them. And over the last 2 3 years, I see I'm able to remember things much better. So the more I play with them, the more I read about them, the more I play, like I like work with them, I see that I remember things a lot more. Now, probably I would be able to easily recollect 100 AWS services, 100 Azure services, 100 Google Cloud services very, very easily without even battling an eyelid. I'm sorry. I think that's all comes with practice. It's like the more you practice, the more you'll be able to remember things. And yeah, that's the only secret. I don't think there is an easy way to remember everything out there. And it's not important to remember. Let me be very, very frank. Like I'm saying that I remember a few, like hundreds of services, but that's not important. It just happens that I keep using them every day, and over a period of time, I would remember. It was not a conscious effort as such to remember them. So let's probably pick up a few more. Um, Prithvi is saying a big fan of you. Thanks a lot, Prithvi. Um, Thanks for putting the comment in there. Um, can you provide a boot camp for Spring Boot so we can have production level coding? Abhishek, I think one of the things that we are planning to do right now is to enhance our Spring Boot courses. So with Spring 3, with Spring Boot 3 and Spring 6, that's the next version. We are going to upgrade all our courses, and there are a lot of in-depth things that we are planning to add in. So hopefully, you would not need a separate boot camp. The course itself would teach you how to go deep into Spring and Spring Boot. That's our goal. Like this, like I have, like I've been using Spring Boot now for almost 6 years, 7 years actually. So I think this is the right time for me to like add like all that knowledge I gained. So the initial courses I created were most of the Spring Boot courses. I created them with Spring Boot 2. So now we are upgrading them to Spring Boot 3. And I would want to add a lot more content, not just whatever is in there. We are going to plan a lot more content into the course. So things like Kafka, MongoDB, reactive programming. We are planning to bring a lot of them into the courses, into the existing courses without actually creating a new course itself. So yeah, I hope some of the your expectations will be handled there. So yeah, Rakesh is asking, I want to switch my career. Can you suggest me which is best, AWS or DevOps or any other non-coding? Rakesh, there is nothing called best. Like this is kind of the most frequently asked question for me. There is nothing called best. It's about figuring out what areas you are interested in and becoming among the top 1 percentile in that area. So think about this. Talk to people who are around you. Talk to people who are like, because it's a very, very contextual thing. I don't want to give a very generic suggestion in here what is best. It depends on what you are doing right now. So you need to look at what you are doing right now. What are the skills that you can add on? So if you are a Java programmer, then I would definitely say AWS is something which is really, really good, right? So learn AWS. Once you learn AWS, learn Docker and Kubernetes. I think those are three really, really good skills to have as a Java programmer. But again, those are hands-on, right? It's not non-coding. So yeah, it probably a lot more context will be needed before I'd be able to answer. Uh, Thanks a lot, Kasturba. Like it makes me really happy to read comments like this. I'm glad that our courses are helping you. Yeah, thank you. It's I also love to watch courses while I do something. So it's great that you are listening and cooking. That's awesome. Really great, and really appreciate. Yeah, thanks for taking the time to write in such a nice message. Thank you. Ganesh Babu Vetrivel, hi. Thanks a lot, sir. I passed AZ 900 yesterday. Congratulations. Really happy. I hope you had a great experience there, learning AZ 900. It's a very emotional course for me. I'll not really reveal the reasons here, but it's a very emotional course for me. And I'm really happy that the course is doing well and it's helping a lot of learners like you get certified. And for other learners who don't know about that course, actually that course is titled Azure Fundamentals in a Weekend. So I mean that's how confident I am that you can learn and clear that certification in probably a few days, right? So it's like that's like one of one of the important courses for me. Like probably a lot of learners here are into Java and Spring Boot, probably not a lot into Azure, but that's kind of one of my favorite courses. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to use that course and do really well. Thank you. There are questions about dumps in the comments. I would not highlight them. I'm on like if you want to do a certification, learn the certification, prepare for it, get practical skills, get certified. Certification, the goal of certification is not to get certified, but to get the practical skills, right? So I would not even recommend you to think about dumps at all. So yeah, I would not even bring like those things up. um, Prithvi K is asking about OAuth 2. Prithvi, we are actually adding content into our microservices course for Spring Security, OAuth. There are a lot of amazing things which came in new into Spring Security. So we are excited. We would add all that content into the microservices course very soon. Um, yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, just like you. Ash Mishra is asking, can you do more shots on Azure as well? Yeah, we have a huge sequence of shots coming up. So we are actually like we have a great team who's working on these shots. You see me in the front end, but there are amazing guys, Balaji, Prashant. They're doing great job behind the screens, making sure that you get one shot a day. And what we are actually doing is like the current format of the shot, we are even enhancing it. So uh, like I'm sure you'll love it. So there are a lot of shots coming up on AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, DevOps, programming itself. So we'd have a shot every day, at least for the next 5 months. So we have all that recorded. So it's just about now editing it and getting it ready for you. I hope you love them. Let's go further down and see. Okay, Vivekanand Singh. Hi. Second year of BTech. What do you think we should right now? Or if you were in my place, what would you do in the second year of college? Great question. What was I doing in the second year of my college? Like in my first year of college, actually, I failed Pascal exam. Uh, so the first half of second year was very important for me because I that's when I focused a lot on programming algorithms and data structures, and I became a really programmer, really good programmer in my second year of programming. So probably that's something you can try as well. I think becoming a good programmer is what you need to focus on in the second year. I think maybe like and once you are a good programmer, I would say like try and solve a lot of problems. Lead code might be a great place to go if you are in the second year. Learn a language, try and solve a lot of lead code problems, try and become a good programmer, and then probably get into like maybe in the third year or I think third year would be the best time where you can start venturing into cloud. Probably pick up one of the cloud platforms and see what's in there. Just try and get a feel for it. Maybe try a beginner level certification. But if you are looking for a programming role, I would say in second year, become a good programmer. by the end of the second year, if you are a really, really good programmer, I think that will really be a great thing. Okay, let's go ahead. Okay, I was just asking why REST API is so important. I keep mentioning it very, very often. Um, I think if you look at the most popular architectures today, right? So the most popular ones are full stack and microservices. Those are the two popular architectures that are used today. And underneath both of them are REST API. Right? Whether you want to go microservices, whether you want to build a full stack application, you need to have a great REST API beneath them. And that's why I stress a lot on REST APIs. So if you are learning, for example, any framework today, like for example, you're learning Spring Boot or Quarkus, building REST API with it would be the best thing to do to learn that framework because it would give you practical skills. I mean, the skills you are learning to build REST API will be really useful when you go to a project, as well as you are learning the framework, the Spring Boot or Quarkus. So that's why I think REST APIs are really, really important. Yep. Pichiredi is asking, hi Pichiredi, he's asking Saga design patterns implementation. I'm not sure if you go too deep into it, but it's one of the things we are planning to add into the microservices course. So the master microservices with Spring Boot and Spring Cloud course, we are going to enhance it and we're going to add Saga and design patterns into it. So look for yeah, I'm sure you'll like whatever we come up with. Okay. Hi, Likita. How to get into DevOps rules from development role, which is related to very old technology. Is there scope for opportunities to start as a DevOps engineer? I think, um, hmm, I think there would be scripting roles where you can use the skills you already have. Like for example, if you can pick up Python scripting skills, I'm sure there are roles where majority of the job are just related to Python scripting. Probably that might be an interesting thing. And yeah, probably Docker Kubernetes might be other things which might be interesting. Or like if you have a lot of experience with older technology, probably you can learn the cloud and then do DevOps on the cloud. Maybe something like Azure DevOps might be an option to consider as well. So yeah, it's not an easy question. Wow, there are a lot of questions down below. Okay, lot of questions. So let's quickly, like maybe I'll start answering questions. Um, we are already past 53 minutes. So let's quickly pick up a few questions and probably end the session here. Yeah, we do have plans for adding Spring Security. Like we are not going to create a new course for Spring Security. What I would do is actually make Spring Security part of every course. So in Spring Boot, microservices course, in every course, with respect to the content that is related to that specific course, we want to enhance it and add Spring Security in there. And that's a goal I set myself for this year to make sure that all our Spring Boots like microservices courses, I would add in a lot of like more content related to like the recent stuff, like for example, reactive programming, maybe things related to Kafka, MongoDB. So you'd see a lot of enhancements coming into each of those courses very, very soon. I was just waiting for the Spring Boot 3 release because if I actually record everything with Spring Boot 2 and there is a Spring Boot 3 coming in, then I have to re-record everything with Spring Boot 3. I did not want to do that. Now that Spring Boot 3 is right here, uh, I would love to actually enhance all the courses and add a lot of new fun stuff in there. So yeah, uh, uh, do listen to the educational announcements and things like that, and do follow me on LinkedIn. You would get a lot more details. Probably I'll not be posting that kind of content on YouTube typically. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, or if you are actually listening to educational announcements in those courses, you should get all the updates. So that would be the best way to actually, yeah, to get the information, I think. But tons of updates are coming into the Spring Boot courses. Like the last couple of years, I was actually focusing on cloud and DevOps, but I think now the time is right for me to focus on Spring Boot. That the Spring Boot 3, like the Spring Boot 3 release is here. We have the, I think, let me check the start.spring.io site. What's the latest one? Yeah, M5 is out here. 3.0.0 M5 is here, so that's good. Another milestone. I was working with M4 mostly. M5 is here, so yeah, excited. By the time there is a released version of Spring Boot, I would love to have all our courses re-recorded and yeah, get all the fun stuff out there. Yep, definitely, Saitija. Reactive programming is on the way. And if Raghu, if you are looking for a Java roadmap, I would recommend you to search for in 28 minutes roadmaps, and you would land up on all our roadmaps. We have a AWS roadmap, Azure roadmap, we have a Google Cloud roadmap, we have a DevOps roadmap, and we also have a Java full stack developer roadmap and a Java microservices developer roadmap. So go ahead and yeah, go ahead and do that. Again, Kasturba saying she has used the AZ900 course and passed with flying colors. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Kasturba. Really, really makes me happy to see learners um, going further in their careers using our content. That's great to hear. We also have Flemmy here. Flemmy saying she passed the um, GCP ACE. Awesome. It's another favorite course of mine, Associate Cloud Engineer. It was the first Google Cloud course that we created, and I love Kubernetes, and I love the fact that a lot of Google Cloud certifications actually focus a lot on Kubernetes. And ACE also is a very tricky certification in the sense that you need to remember a lot of commands and things. So I'm really, really glad that you were able to actually clear that exam. I'm really, really delighted for you. Rakesh is asking if I have any offline training. Nope. The only thing I do is to create Udemy courses. So no other, at least right now, I don't do anything else. I think this is Overrim asking which language do you choose as a career option? Yeah, I don't have a pick actually. C Sharp, Java, Python. Uh, it does not matter. The important thing is to pick something you have an affinity to, you have a circle of friends who can help you with, and then go and become among the top 1 percentile, 5 percentile, or 10 percentile of people using that specific thing. Once you are in the top uh, 1 percentile, you do really well. So yeah, it does not matter. I mean, we focus a lot on those kind of choices, but eventually what I learned in my career, in my 25, not 25 yet, little bit more than 20 years of career right now, is whatever happens for you, if you are really, really good at what you're doing, that's the best thing to do. Unless you are having specific goals, in that kind of scenario, yeah, go ahead, take that and become good at it. But if you are not having a specific choice, talk to your friends, talk to your circle, figure out what people in your circle are doing. Then you would have a lot more guidance, real guidance. Right? I can just say Java out here or C Sharp out here, but you will not get the real guidance. So it's the problem with these kind of questions is that there is no generic answer. Right? If 100 people ask me this question, probably the answer for each one of them is different. Samir is saying he has taken the Java interview and the Spring interview courses. Uh, glad to see that they help you. I'm really, really happy for that. And yeah, we have Spring Security coming up. Will be added into all our courses. It will not be a specific course on Spring Security because I think everybody needs to understand Spring Security. We already have a basic element of Spring Security in place in most courses, but I would want to go deeper into Spring Security. The only reason why I was actually hesitating before adding Spring Security in was, to be really, really frank, I'm not happy with the Spring Security framework itself. And I was actually expecting big things to happen in Spring Boot 3. with respect to Spring Boot 3 and the corresponding Spring Security releases, Spring Security 6 probably, right? So I was expecting big things there. So yeah, hopefully some of them are there in place, and security is much more easier now. Let's see. We will definitely add a lot of content into our courses. Wow, this is stunning. 8 Azure certifications, 2 GCP certifications, 2 AWS certifications. Wow. Glad to hear that, Kasturba. Welcome back. Welcome back. Let's yeah, Frank is let's make this the last question. Frank is asking if I would need to learn Apache Camel for integration if I already know Kafka. Unless you are planning to use it in your project, I would not worry about it. So if you are planning to use it in your project, then probably go ahead and learn Apache Camel. But if you're not planning to use Apache Camel in your specific project, then I would say probably go to YouTube, search for Apache Camel, find a half-an-hour video, get an overview of it, understand the use case. That should be more than sufficient. If you're planning to use it in your project, that's a different cup of tea altogether. Then I would recommend to you to go ahead and play with it. Okay, guys, it's now past the hour, so it's been 1 hour since I'm live. So I hope I was able to help you make the right choices. A lot of questions, probably my answers were very vague, but yeah, I don't want to really get specific when I don't have the background information. So I hope I was able to help. If there are any such questions, do post them in the comments. And there's a lot of content which we are going to release in the near future. Almost all our Spring Boot microservices courses would be rehashed. I'm excited for Spring Boot 3 release. So yeah, you can expect a lot of content there. And there are also a lot of fun stuff with respect to DevOps. I have a few ideas, and not concrete, a few very interesting ideas. Not really to make them public yet, but hopefully, yeah, in time you would learn about them. And if you have any feedback on anything that we can improve on, any content that we can add to existing courses, anything that would help you do your job better, yeah, do let us know. We are all ears. We listen to your feedback, and yeah, I'm really happy to have got the chance to talk with you today. I'll talk to you guys again very soon.